and the players executed very well.
Yeah, I mean, you could not have asked for anything more than what your defense gave you. Of course, they also had 7 points the other way, thanks to a hit from Trent McDuffie, the fumble from Tyreek Hill. And 9-hour flights suck. 9-hour flight after a win, a little bit better.
Different,
a little bit better heading into the bye week.
I think you can probably live with that. Next up on What's Trending, multiple injuries confirmed across the NFL. Jones will have season-ending torn ACL surgery.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones.
No,
Daniel Jones.
I just want to be clear. Chris Jones is fine.
Jones.
Chris Jones is
He's
fine.
Don't worry about that. He's at least okay in this. And Dallas Goedert has a fractured forearm, and Cam Akers did once hurt his ACL again, or his Achilles, right?
Achilles, yeah.
Achilles.
Yeah.
His opposite Achilles is the one he recovered from last year. So a lot of major injuries in the NFL again. Another thing to just avoid. Yeah, Nick Bolton got hurt, but at least they're going to have him back at the end of the year at some point. Just got to avoid those type of injuries. Obviously, there's a shot they'll get Goddard back, depending on what might happen after the fractured forearm. But he won't be available for the Chiefs game once again, which is kind of important, at least on that end.
College basketball tonight really gets going. Over 100 games in action. Some already started earlier today. A couple local schools in action. K-State, late one tonight because they're in Las Vegas. What a way to open up the season. Big fan of the Las Vegas start. They're taking on USC. This one has the Wildcats as 2.5-point dogs. Bronny James not playing for USC. This would have been his college debut. Fortunately, not happening. We know he had the health scare this offseason. KU in action at Allen Fieldhouse this evening. They are hosting NC Central. The Jayhawks are, 25-point, 26-point favorites.
Something like that. Next up on What's Trending, Stephen Vogt will replace Terry Francona as the Guardians manager, and Craig Counsell will be the new manager of the Cubs. I guess the story in baseball for that is they're paying him $8 million a year to be the Cubs manager. That makes him the highest paid manager in all of baseball. There's been this whole big thing in baseball about how college coaches are being paid more than major league managers, which is making talent hard to keep at the major league level. From a coaching perspective, there's just more money in college coaching than there is in major league coaching from a manager level. This makes him on par with those high-paid college coaches and also make him the highest-paid manager in all of Major League Baseball. So Craig Counsell will be the Cubs' new manager.
That's What's Trending. Did want to mention also congrats out to Sporting KC. Always
Hell
good
yeah.
to eliminate St. Louis from something, and that's exactly what they did. They took down the number 1 seed in the MLS, St. Louis, as Sporting didn't even need the third game. They went to St. Louis last Sunday, beat them up pretty good. Last night, back here in KC, Sporting took care of them, and so now it goes to the Western Conference semifinals, and we'll see what kind of run. Like at this point, though, man, why can't they go on a deep, deep run? Because
if you take out the best team in the regular season,
they're playing as good as anybody. It's always about how are you playing at the right time, and they are playing as good as anybody in the entire league after having a dreadful first 10 matches start to the season, which they didn't get a win, and now here they are as an 8 seed moving on to the Western Conference semifinals.
Look, I was critical, I think like anybody was who watches Sporting or had been, that Vermees had kind of lost control a little bit. And then honestly, I thought it was a little bit premature when they just qualified for the postseason. On the last day of the season, they were like, oh, see, I told you so. You all counted us out. I was like, I don't know, man. You're the 8 seed. You might want to chill before you start taking a victory lap on that. Won the wild card game, got in there against the number 1 seeded squad in St. Louis, and took them down too. So you can flex as much as you want now. Everything else here, we always talk about those teams that, have nothing to lose as far as championship goes. Whew, man, this is it.
Yeah, but one thing that is still so frustrating to watch is what clearly has been approved by Dave Tobe, but that is catching the ball inside the freaking 5-yard line, man. And it happened yesterday, and you're probably screaming at your TV like we all were, saying, let the ball bounce into the end zone instead of setting up. Right now, when your offense is struggling as well, 95-yard drives are tough for anybody. The Chiefs used to make them look easy. With this offense right now, you can't be giving up free yardage, which is what they're doing on these punt returns.
Here's, I guess, the question I have about why they haven't adjusted this. I went through my anger phase earlier with this, which was, it's never worked. It keeps not working, and yet you keep doing it, Dave. Why? Just why? The reality is, if you added up the math, they have more fumbles inside the 10 than they have a return inside the 10 that works. At some point, and I know Andy likes to stay out of this. This is where I gripe with Andy a little bit every once in a while. Is when his defense was really struggling at the end of Bob Sutton, he just wouldn't step in and make him fix it Make him change something. He would just let Bob Sutton have linebackers out in coverage 40 yards down the field against Antonio Brown and never stood in the way of his guy. He lets them operate freely, which I get it, man. He's one of the most successful coaches of all time. Maybe that's what's gotten him there. Maybe this is the biggest reason why. I think this is one of the reasons where Andy could decide to tighten up shop. The reason why he's one of the most penalized teams in the NFL, or his teams makes mistakes that some other teams don't. Usually let it go because his players love playing for him and will do anything for him. You got to tell Spags that this isn't a part of our game plan anymore. And Spags has got to learn that it isn't working. So change. Why?
Dave Tobe, yeah.
Why do we ask every other coach on this? Be like, hey, Andy, the offense isn't working. You need to change things up. Andy will say that. We got to look at some other ways. We just let Dave Tobe operate inside the 10-yard line the exact same way for 4 years. No. Change.
Yeah, I don't expect it to, though, man. Like that, I think we've seen with a lot, and this is, for a coaching staff that has won multiple Super Bowls, right? And it doesn't mean they're perfect. It doesn't mean they're not immune from criticism. And this is one of those that I think you can add this to the list with the short yardage stuff with Andy, that I don't know if there's going to be a switch in philosophy. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't, but I think by now we would have already seen it. There's no reason to field upon inside the 5, but that's the go-ahead they have from their special teams coordinator. It's not a McCole Hardman problem. It could be Montreal Washington. It could be Rashee Rice. It could be you back there, and I think they would tell you, hey, you got the green light. Go ahead if you feel it. Catch it inside the 5 and see what you can do. But it doesn't make any sense, especially with something we discussed with the kickoff return rules. We're talking about punts here, but even if you go back to the kickoff return rule change, we were saying all camp, just let it be a touchback, or fair catch it, I should say, every single time like you can on kickoffs now, too. Take the ball at the 25, set up Patrick Mahomes and your offense. There's no reason to try to do that. And I think
know there's less of that now because the Chiefs' offense isn't going all that great, but still.
I think the philosophy has been cemented, too, Cody, by what they did in the postseason, because they did have 2 big-time returns. And so because Sky Moore had the massive return in the AFC title game against Cincy, because Kadarius Toney had the big punt return that set up a huge drive in the Super Bowl back in February against Philly, that I just think that further reinforced there's a chance that there's a chance that for them the reward is greater than the risk. I disagree with that, but I think that's their mindset with it.
Is there not some reason that if he's going to fair catch it, he can let it go by? Let's just say I'll meet you halfway. And I'm okay with him fielding a punt inside the 10 to return because you're telling me the juice is worth the squeeze. Something can happen. Nothing can happen but bad things if he catches the football at the 6. The worst case scenario is you get the ball at the 1 instead of the 6. The best case scenario is you gain 14 yards. That seems like it's worth it to me. Also, the worst case scenario is that you could get the ball at the 1 or he could fumble or a million other things, right? So many worse outcomes can occur. You can get called for a holding. You can just let the ball go. Maybe everybody stops playing. He throws his arms up in the air. Everyone disengages, Gold. So many more things can go wrong if he's going to fair catch it. That one kills me. Even more than the returning. Because I can go back, right, and that one that he fumbled. If he returns that, he had some space. There's some room around him. He might be able to return something, get some yardage. Maybe he breaks one off, right? Maybe he wins him a football game because he did it. They lost a football game. But maybe he wins him a football game.
They've won games because of it before. Yeah,
okay,
returns,
fine. I'll let that one go. Not the fair catch. There were 3, man. 3 inside the 10-yard line of a single game. At some point, are you sure you don't want to just let one fly over your head? I just think it's frustrating with Tobe because of all, and I'm sure he'd argue differently because he's more in the little minutia. I don't think a single part of Dave Tobe's strategy has changed in 5 years. He operates the exact same way. This is the same conversation we had 5 years ago. How the hell is that possible? How's it possible in the NFL that you could be doing the same thing for 5 years? Same philosophy inside kick returns, same philosophy inside punt return. How? How is this possible? Doesn't make any sense. And look, I've got no other complaints except for this. Kicking game, Butker.
Yeah, it's money.
Still nails.
Money.
Look, I'm not in trouble. Butker's still making his kicks. Tommy Townsend's one of the best punters. He's good at identifying talent. He was probably a part of the conversation that brought Butker in. I'm good. He's helping decide the punter. Tommy Townsend's good, but just maybe stop fair catching it inside the 10. That's all. That's all I'm asking. I'm trying to be reasonable here.
We were watching it with people, and everybody was holding their breath on any return. But then that one, everybody's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And it's not. It's really not even a McCall Hardman thing. That is just what they have done consistently. As a coaching staff.
It's funny. It's like the same conversation. Somebody said the point. They're like, "Hey, can we also have this conversation with Andy on 3rd and 1?"
that stuff is still way more frustrating than the punt
Of course,
thing.
because it matters more.
I mean,
but
this not inability. I still think lack of not creativity even. I think it goes back to the play calling arrogance stuff. That on a 3rd and 1, nobody's saying you have to run it every single time because you want to have the wrinkle to pass. You have Patrick Mahomes. But when you're struggling with your wide receivers to get separation, and you have what we think, and I still think it's true, the offensive line, in particular the interior of an offensive line that we think is one of the best in football, that you have a running back that also is willing to run through a brick wall, and usually he would run through it, that you don't, on 3rd and 1, run the football. And if you do, it's usually a weird wrinkle where it's, well, we're going to have Blake Bell and then Kadarius Toney come in motion and try to hand it off to him. And we're going to have, like, just running the ball 3rd and 1. Andy Reid, after the game, kind of joked about it a little bit and acknowledged that he should have let the big guys have that one, referencing his offensive line. I would laugh at the joke if I hadn't heard it 20 times, as in you're not changing.
And I thought it was going to, fix down the road. It's weird because the Chiefs are 5th best in the NFL at 3rd down conversion rate. They're one of the best teams in the entire NFL at converting on 3rd down.
Yeah, so 3rd and 15s.
They're the best in the damn NFL at that. Nobody beats them in that regard. I just don't, honest to God, like as much as Andy's like, we'll fix it, or maybe like, because he'll occasionally run it, and they converted a 3rd and 1 on a pass earlier in that.
They did.
But here's the thing: would they have converted if they just ran it? I'm not cherry picking. I want them to, and I am dead. I want them to run the ball for 10 consecutive 3rd and 1s and just prove to me that it's not more successful than what you're currently doing. Because right now their 3rd down conversion is around 45%. It's a very good conversion rate, but it's about the same as that on 3rd and 1 as it is 3rd and 10, and that's no good. You should be more effective at 3rd and 1 than 3rd and 10 by a mile. It's a yard. It's way easier. By definition, it's easier.
I think that was even a 3rd and inches, the one we're all talking about yesterday later in the game.
Did you see the way they were lined up? Like they weren't even pretending like Kansas City had any chance at running a QB
you?
sneak.
Would you?
He could have moonwalked a QB sneak into a first down.
If you're the opponent, would you pay attention to it?
No. They've never run it.
They won't do it. The only time I'd be nervous is in the playoffs as a team because I think, this is the one time they might do it. But if it's a regular season game, I mean, you could promise anybody in the league, as if you're talking to them, there's no chance in a regular season game they're ever doing a QB sneak. So yeah, you don't need to pay attention to that whatsoever. Not at all.
Someone says I'd rather take the delay of game penalty and make it 3rd and 6.
Someone else says that Mahomes checked out of the run. I
don't know. Did Andy say that?
He did not. That's not what he said.
Also, I've got a pretty long history, even if that was the one time.
Right.
And every play has a check, especially if you're Patrick Mahomes.
Well,
that comes down to
multiple plays.
Remember, we had this conversation. I don't remember even which team it was.
It was Tyrod Taylor in the Bills. It was Tyrod Taylor and the Giants.
Taylor in that Bills game.
The Giants, and they should have beat the Bills on that Monday night or Sunday night game, whatever it was, right before half, and they ran out of time because he checked to a run play. What a disaster.
And we're like, that shouldn't even be a check. And if it is a check, it shouldn't matter because you should never check into it based on the scenario. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. That was a good one. That was a good one.
I was still a fan of the Germany game, though. I'll be honest. Like, I thought it was cool. I thought it was a great showcase. They're probably going to be there in a year or so. I know season ticket holders.
So you're back on board for a Super Bowl in overseas?
No.
Hey, come on.
Regular
you said
season.
You liked it. You said it was fun.
It was fun for a regular season game. And I know there's a lot of Chiefs season ticket holders that are good with it as long as it's an away game the next time, so it doesn't count as a home game for them and take away season ticket holders' opportunity. So I think they'll be in Germany in the next year or two again. Maybe in Munich or something.
I think it'll be next year.
That's
Peter King was
that's
talking
the rumor.
about
Yeah, that's the rumor. And I thought it was fun. It was a great showcase. It definitely felt bigger. One, the opponent helps, but it just felt bigger. There were a lot of watch parties around Kansas City. I had fun. It was kind of cool, different experience getting up early and watching the game and having a little brunch or breakfast while you're watching the game. And then once noon hit, your team already won and you're just hanging out the rest of the day. I thought it was great, and it seems like from a Chiefs marketing end, building up Chiefs fan base, it could not have gotten any better there in Germany.
It's funny because that's one of those like we talked about with like Fox and like baseball rankings. I mean, I don't care if the Chiefs make more money in their endorsement.
It's not about making more money.
They can't, they can't spend more
it's
just
not
because
about
of
making
that.
more money
Like
for you and I. Like,
Sure.
you're right. That's what they're doing. For you and I, to me, it's just like from a fan base. I'm talking about 40,
it's nice to have an expanded fan base.
40
and
years
all
from
those
now,
people showing
40
up,
years from now, there's going to be a story of the first time some kid went to an NFL game and watched Patrick Mahomes, and he's now in his 50s, and he's like, yeah, I remember I became a Chiefs fan 50 years ago because like that kind of stuff. It's changed forever. There was in fact a story of some like 14-year-old kid that Travis Kelce gave his gloves to, had never been to an NFL game, and like now, hello, fan for life, fan for the Chiefs, fan of Travis Kelce for life. That kind of stuff you can't buy that. I know we can talk about buying marketing. Like you can't buy that kind of exposure and what that can mean from taking over and having Chiefs fans all around the world. And you can say like you don't care about the money, and I'm with you.
Yeah, because it's not like baseball, right? More money for them does not mean more money into the team.
I view it as it's good for Kansas City. And what we've seen this city in the last couple of years between the draft, soon to be the World Cup, you know that the Chiefs being in these Super Bowls has brought more interest in Kansas City.
We're riding a good run.
Like I don't know. We all grew up here in Kansas City, or both of us grew up in Kansas City. So we take pride, obviously, in where we grew up, like anybody would. And seeing Kansas City, like more people know about Kansas City now over the last, really, even with the Royals in 14 and 15, but really the last 5 years. Because of Mahomes, because of the Chiefs, and now put that on an international scale. So I just think that's cool. I take pride in that. So you're right that I'm not getting a check because they played in Germany, but it's good for the city, and you're proud of where you grew up even more.
No, I like it for the city perspective. There's no doubt about it. Very cool.
Yeah, man.
That the Chiefs.
We'll see what happens next year.
First team ever to win in 4 different countries.
That's true. Yeah, Mexico City, Mexico, and then London. So the UK, and now Germany, and then the U.S.
Canada too. I think they got a Canada win. Well, maybe that was one of the other teams.
Who would they have played in Canada?
One of them was in Canada. One of the 3 teams was in Canada. That was with them with the same number of countries. But it was probably when like Buffalo played in Canada for a few games.
It's got to be Toronto or something. I was like, I'm trying to think, when the hell has there been an actual scheduled game?
Well, they take on like the Argonauts or something.
The CFL is a little bit different. All right, we're
Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Yeah, man.
Knock them out.
We're back at it tomorrow. Vinny Pasquantino, our VidFL insider, will join us. Nate Taylor, also fresh off a trip. We got to talk about his travel to Germany. I feel bad for our guy, Nate. He made it to the game and everything, but we'll have to talk to Nate about what happened over the last couple of days as well. Hope you guys have a good rest of your Monday. The Drive.